The cameras are moving there to get ready for the president's next visit there at the demilitarized zone. But you heard some interesting things from the American military base commander there, who seemed to be telling the president about the artillery pieces and rockets that are aimed at North Korea, aimed from North Korea, aimed at South Korea. They would rain fire down on Seoul in the event of hostilities. And rejoining us now, Bruce Klingner, who worked the Korean problem for the CIA for quite a number of years. Those rockets, I mean, conventional military forces, and I believe he described them as low tech. I believe I heard the base commander describe them to the president as low tech, but very effective and very frightening if you're worried about the possibility of war between North Korea and South Korea, Bruce.
Very much so. The world really is focused mostly on the nuclear threat to South Korea, as well as U.S. forces and citizens there. But there's also a very large conventional threat. North Korea has a 1 million-man army. It's forward deployed close to the demilitarized zone. There's artillery all along the demilitarized zone. There's a lot in what the U.S. commander referred to as the Kaesong Heights. That can reach Seoul without having to move further forward. So Seoul is under direct conventional threat, as is the rest of South Korea. So not only do we need to focus on the nuclear and missile threat, we do have to try to get conventional force reductions as well before we sign any kind of peace declaration or peace treaty.
All right, so tell us about how far it is from the observation post where the president, we just saw President Trump and President Moon Jae-in. How far is it from there to where they will apparently exchange handshakes with Kim Jong-un?
It's very close. That may be observation post Alouette, which is very close to the peace house where they would have the meeting, or right along the military demarcation line. So it has a very good vantage point, not only of the joint security area, but also into North Korea, and that's the purpose it has there.
Talk a little bit about the relationship between the U.S. and South Korea. There have been strains between President Trump and President Moon.
Exactly. The U.S. and South Korea have very different views of how to approach the North. The U.S. has been doing the maximum pressure policy, though, as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot more that can be done. South Korea has been pushing an engagement policy. President Moon really kind of rankled the United States by pushing very aggressively for rescission or exemptions to U.S. and UN sanctions, far more than the U.S. was comfortable with. So that did lead to some strains. I think that's been a bit reduced because President Moon now realizes that the U.S. is not going to allow these exemptions until North Korea actually takes significant steps towards actual denuclearization.
But in the past, when the United States has eased sanctions on North Korea or given it some kind of a carrot to try to bring about or reward good behavior, those things have, its behavior has changed maybe for a brief period of time, and then it's usually reneged on the assurances that it has given us.
Exactly. There's a long list of not only the 8 international agreements with the North, but South Korea has had hundreds of inter-Korean agreements, obviously not all related to nuclear issues, as well as providing $7 to $9 billion during a 10-year period under liberal presidents. And that didn't induce political or economic reform in the North as the original intent was. It didn't really moderate North Korean behavior. They still had skirmishes along the DMZ or in the West Sea to the west of the Koreas. And North Korean officials have told me that, they have nuclear weapons because they claim they are afraid we will attack, and that no amount of economic benefits will compensate them for that fear of a U.S. attack. But the U.S. has also provided at least 20 or more security assurances, promises we won't attack them with conventional or nuclear weapons. That also didn't moderate their nuclear program.
Perhaps we can